Hey everyone, this is Jordan with Main Deck, and today I have a deck for you that's going to engulf your opponent in flames. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, today I have an awesome Endeavor deck that's sure to just engulf your opponent in massive amounts of damage, aka the flames, and it's going to do it quite quickly. We also have a very large deck count today, so I'm going to try to really encompass one of the kill conditions and turbo through most of this deck. Let's just swap on over here to the deck list. So of course it is Endeavor. We'll quickly go over the character and then you'll see why I have both a lot of cards once we get to a lot of the attacks and effects we have, and why as the game goes on, just like a fire, it turns from a small flame to a blazing inferno. So the first enhance there is going to be the main thing we kind of built things around, and the response is really going to make sure you can punch home when you need to. The enhance is your non-throw attack gets +1 damage for every 6 cards in your discard pile. So a lot of cards, as you see here, are going to have discard effects. You're going to fill up that discard pile as soon and as fast as possible to really capitalize on the most damage you possibly can and just kind of blast your opponent with every single attack. He does also have 30 health, which means you can tank quite a bit of damage, especially for a 6-hander. And that's going to come into play with his response, which is commit after you are dealt 5 or more damage, add 1 attack from your discard pile to your hand. So this will make sure that you can have the attacks you need, or at least, a attack. More importantly, you'll probably be grabbing our first attack here in the list here. To kind of finish your opponent late game once you start really stacking that damage, or even the mid game in all honesty. You'll be shelling cards off of everything and it'll pile up real quick. This +1 on every 6 cards is going to become +5, +6, +8 quicker than you might think. So we're just going to start off as per usual with our actually we'll do action cards first like we normally do, and then we'll jump into the attacks, even though the action cards aren't the real sizzle here. So we got 2 copies of Capture Evildoers. It's a great block. It has Breaker. It has a relevant effect on the form. You can discard a momentum to clear your card pool, allowing you to keep playing attacks much cheaper. And it also is removal of your opponent's momentum and gives you momentum. We don't have a ton of need for momentum in the deck, but there are some options out there, and one of your main really beefy kill cards uses it, but it only uses 1, which is why we're not really starving. We do have a momentum outlet if you do need it, and we'll get to that once we get to the attacks. The next one is Go for the Win. We got 2 copies of that. The main reason it's here is because it has that nice low block. We're a little short on low blocks, not very short, but it's just helping shore up that low block ability. And the first form is going to help us destroy foundations. We have a bunch of foundations that'll do effects when they hit the discard pile. We don't have a ton of ways to get them in the discard pile if you play them, so this will give you 1 out and potentially also give you the 1 up on your opponent, allowing you to build in addition to getting effects when you destroy those foundations. We also have the response, which is nothing to scoff at. If your rival passes on playing an enhance, you get to give it +2 speed, which when you're already beefing damage up, +6 plus X amount, large amounts in this deck, being able to give something speed to make sure it punches through is very valuable as well. So all around, it does work. Then we're going to start right off with one card that originally is, one of the reasons I wanted to play this deck is Blast Rush Turbo. The XR, of course, is really great looking, but I mainly wanted to just capitalize on the large amount of cards that are going to be in the discard pile for this deck. So for those who don't know, it's a 5 diff, 4 low for 5 damage, already a nice chunk of damage. It's a Fury. It hits first enhance is discard 1 momentum. This attack gets +1 damage for every Fury card in your discard pile. Sorry, Fury attack. But as you can see, we run a lot of cards in general. You're going to be shelling a lot from the top on almost every card. Outside of this one, you'll have a large amount to pull through on top of your Endeavor enhance. So this attack is going to get really mean really quickly, and it's going to threaten to kill most characters once it starts hitting the late early game / mid game, and especially in the late game. This will just threaten to kill your opponent on its own, let alone your other attacks that'll be on the way. We do also have some ways to use its second enhance, which is if you've discarded a card from your card pool this combat phase, it'll get +1 speed and +3 damage. more damage stacking on it, and a little bit of speed to make sure it punches through. It's already a 4 low, which is kind of hard to block on some matchups, and we have other ways to amp its speed as well, making this already a formidable attack. 4 copies of that. Then we got 4 copies of Hellflame Cross Punch. This one is just a 5 diff, 4 mid for 4. The main reason we have it on here is it's got a really potent discard effect. Discard 2 cards from your deck as a cost, and then this attack, if its damage is 8 or more, it gets plus 3 speed. Like I said, with Endeavor's Enhance, along with all the other enhances we have on our foundations, this will be very easy outside of like turn 1 or 2 to get that second enhance, meaning you're gonna shell more cards, increasing your damage with Endeavor, and giving it speed, which 7 speed with plus however much damage you're giving it is gonna be a very threatening attack anytime it hits the board. 4 copies, nothing real else to say there. It does also have a response that is nice on defense. After you block with this card, you add it to your hand during the end phase. So you can go ahead if you're not going to attack, or if you don't have the ability to attack on your current turn, due to tapping stuff out, you can just hold it in your hand, block with it freely, because you'll get it right back into your hand as gas for next turn. Next one, we got 4 copies of Signature Right Swing. Amazing block. It's only a 4 diff. 3 high for 4, nothing stellar there, but it's got discard 2 cards from your hand to draw 2 cards. This allows you to discard some of our effect cards under our foundations out of your hand to potentially fish for attacks, and in general, it just gets more stuff in your discard pile, really speeding up everything. It also lets you just siphon your hand, so if there's something you're not liking, being able to siphon your hand is still very valuable no matter what deck you're running. We next have 4 copies of Blue Flame Spiral. This one is the only non-Fury card, but it definitely pulls its weight. It is a 5 diff, it has a decent low block, it is a 3 mid for 5, but we can remedy that speed with its enhanced discard 3 cards from your deck, again, shelling more cards. This attack deals damage, you destroy an asset or foundation, one of the few asset hate cards we have in the game currently. So that is relevant when you're fighting, Mei or Momos or Jiros or anyone who's really wanting to use assets. Or you can just target a very, a foundation that you really don't want to see. If they have wall clings, they're going to stop stuff, prevent damage. This will allow you to clear some of that. Basically just lets you target something. And you get to pick it. It doesn't say your rival destroys the foundation. You destroy one rival foundation, so you get to choose. Its other foundation, or its other enhance, is going to remedy that 3 speed. You ready 2 opponents' foundations, and this attack gets 4 speed. That makes it a 7 speed. Sure, you're giving them 2 foundations back, but you're still gaining a net speed of 2, essentially, a virtual net speed of 2, and there's no saying that you don't have other effects to commit those or something along those lines. So this comes in, it shells cards, it's gonna be great damage, great speed, great all-around effect here. Moving on, we have Touch of Decay, 4 diff. This is one of the few cards that doesn't discard any cards, but it's in here because we needed more attacks, and this one allows you to, in some ways, punch through your damage regardless. It has Fury, Stun 1, and Combo Fury, and this is the main reason we're running it. Combo Enhance, commit 1 foundation. If this is completely blocked, add it back to your hand. So basically you play it, you commit something, they completely block it to stop your massive amounts of damage, you just pick it back up and replay it and be like, all right, cool, then we'll try again. And you basically just keep trying until they either half block it, which, if you have +4, +5, even plus up to 8, depending on your foundations and your Endeavor, you can get some crazy damage on here. Half damage is still doing like 5, 6, sometimes 7 or 8 damage, so that's still very potent. It also has a nice high block, and if they decide not to block it, they'll be taking a boatload of damage, and you get to draw a card. Very threatening card in this deck. I like it very much. It definitely puts the pressure on your opponent. The next one is definitely one of the MVPs. We got a 5 diff Mighty Punch. 3 speed, not the fastest. It's a Fury, which feeds into other stuff and allows us to pump its speed with some of our... it's a mid and a Fury, which we have a couple foundations that'll boost the speed. So the 3 speed isn't all that much to worry about. And it already does 7 damage. 7 damage plus all the damage you're going to be stacking. It's gonna be an extremely threatening piece. They're going to have to block it. And if they don't, you get to draw 2 cards after you shell those 4 cards. For the enhance, you discard 4 cards off the top. And if it's not blocked, you get to draw 2 cards. So all around, it's super threatening, forces the block, and if they don't have the block, you just get maximum value. It also has a deadlock enhance for deadlock pressure. Not very important in the matchup, but it can be threatening in some cases, which is discard the top 10 cards of your rival's deck. If they go to deadlock, you can even start pushing their cards. Even if you're not planning on killing them via mill, sometimes cycling their deck gives you a lot of pressure ability because you get to see what they remove. If they remove a bunch of attacks, you know that they have less gas to hit you back with, so you can just kind of go all out. But the main reason it's here is the beefy damage and that discard 4. The last attack we are running is a new one, Hardened Crusher. 5 difficulty, 4 mid for 5. Fury, it is our other momentum outlet of powerful 2, and it is a punch. We got response after you play this card, your rival will flip 1 foundation. Keep in mind that is on block as well, because it says when you play this card, not when you play this attack. So it gives you some nice, teeth when you're blocking, and it, of course, discards more cards. We go to the enhance, discard the top 2 cards of your deck, and if this attack deals damage, build it face down during the end phase, giving you more gas to keep going on your turn, and obviously making it a little more threatening to block. You're already going to be stacking massive damage here, so it's going to be threatening on its own, but it just adds that little extra sting when they can't block it. So it helps extend your turn. Does all around great stuff. That will be the 28 attacks we got in this large 85 card deck, and we'll move on to the foundations. So starting off, you'll see there's a lot of 4-ofs, so we'll be just plowing through these again. We got Tutoring Kirashima, a 2-diff foundation. The main reason it's in here is we got remove after this card enters the discard pile during the enhanced step. Your rival flips a foundation. We're going to be discarding tons of cards every, interaction. In some cases, even on your opponent's attacks, you'll be doing stuff defensively to discard cards. If this flips off during the enhanced step, you just remove it from the game, and your opponent has to flip a foundation, turning off their effects. That's the main reason it's here. We'll move on. We got 4 copies of those, of course, and then we got 1 copy of Aiming for Number 1. Most of the time I at least put this in as one of any character who can run it, just because its effects are good. It's a unique, it's a 3 cost. It's not like super important, but it does work when it needs to. We got set 2, Crimson Rampage response only. That's what that little symbol there is. You commit it after your rival adds any number of cards to their hand due to their non-character effects. They discard 1 card. There is a lot of attacks, a lot of foundations that allow you to draw cards or put things in your hand, and this just kind of helps combat that. That's part of the reason I have it in here all the time. It's just because so many people, so many characters are going to draw cards at some point due to effects that aren't their character. This will help mitigate that a little bit. It also has a second response, remove after your rival adds any number of cards to their hand due to a non-character effect. So basically the same trigger, you get to draw 2 cards. So you kind of get to choose. If it's, if they're on defense and they're drawing cards, you can use the draw effect to give yourself more chances to attack, or if you need more blocks, it really lets you pick and choose whether you want to lessen their hand or make your hand bigger. I like that option. So this is why I have it in here at 1 of. We got 4 copies of Revel at his masterpiece Endeavor card. We got this in here because enhance your turn, discard the top card of your deck. This attack gets +1 damage. That's all it needed to say to have it in this deck, but it also has an Endeavor / Todoroki form where you remove it. If you have 10 or fewer cards in your deck, you draw 2 cards. Now, in most cases, because our deck is so huge, generally you won't get to this point. If you have 10 or less cards in your deck, chances are the opponent's already dead or about to die, because you're going to be giving it plus like 7 or 8. I think even with 80, let's see, 60, yeah, they'll be well into giving it plus 10 or 11 on every single attack you throw. Chances are they will be dead long before you hit that form, but it is there in case you do get to that point. Again, the main reason we're running it, discards cards and gives more damage. That's what we like to see. We got 4 copies of League Interview. This has first form, discard the top 2 cards of your deck. The next check to play an attack is +1. We run a lot of 5 diff attacks. Not that we have a lot of bad checks in the deck, but it is nice to just get that extra +1 to make sure you don't have to tap anything on your first attack. And of course it discards cards, boosting our effect. Now this doesn't discard cards during the enhanced step, so most of our foundations that get effects off of being discarded won't trigger, but it's worth the risk because you're going to be shelling more cards, just increasing your base damage all the time. It also helps out on the board. It has flip. After you make a check to block, that check gets +1. So on defense, it gives you that little extra bit of defense, so you can flip it, give it +1, and then you still have it ready so you can tap it to help block as well. The next one, we got 4 copies, another 3 diff. We got defrosting. Enhance, of course it says discard 1 card off the top of your deck and you choose 1. I really like this effect because it lets you choose whether you want more damage or more speed. If you know your opponent's not going to block, they don't have any cards in hand, you can just say, I don't care about speed, give it damage. Or if we have some of these other attacks, since we're already pumping so much speed or so much damage, giving it -1 damage to give it +2 speed and make it that much harder to stop is very, very potent in this deck. And it can also be used on your opponent's turn, helping you shell cards on their turn and making it easier to block their attacks or give it some, a little less damage so it stings less. So you can just kind of eat attacks when you need to, not taking as much damage, or lower the speed to make sure you can block. Very good all-around card for this deck. Next, we got 4 copies of Internship with Best Genus. It's a great spam foundation. Main reason it's here, it also has the text, discard the top card of your deck. It also allows you to flip a foundation whenever you do. So response, discard the top card of your deck after you play this card. So that works on both block and playing it to build the foundation. And it allows you to flip cards. Turning off your opponent's effects is very potent. They do get to choose what it is, but it's still nice to turn off effects on your opponent's board. Generally, they play cards because they want those effects, so turning them off, very good. The next one, we got Aggressive Temper, a 2 diff that has the response after it hits the discard pile during your attack's enhanced step. The attack gets +2 damage. We're shelling a lot of cards on basically every attack. We're going to be milling, 3 to 5 cards most of the time. Chances are you'll hit one or multiple of these, giving it even more damage. We also have a couple outlets like Go for the Win and Frozen that allow us to destroy it while it's on the field, and while it's in your hand, it's a block, nice mid block, and we also have a bunch of ways to cycle cards out of our hand, making it so we can discard it during attacks as well. So we have a lot of ways to get rid of this card and get its benefit. Next, we got 4 copies of Arrogant Disposition. It's in here because it's a good block, it's a good spam, and it's a 6 check, which is great. We like 6 checks, make sure we check nicely more often. And its commit to give a punch attack -3 speed is relevant in most matchups, as about half, if not more, of the attacks in the entire game have punch on it. So this also, most of the time, is going to give you great defense as well. Latent Skill, great block, and main reason we're running it is flip, discard 2 cards, and draw 2 cards. Able to cycle your hand, find the attacks you need when you need them, and puts more cards in your discard pile. We got only 2 copies of Capabilities. It's a 3 diff with a terrible block, but it's got Enhance, Commit, discard 1 momentum, and your Fury attack gets +2 speed, +5 damage. It gives us both speed and damage, and since outside of Turbo Blast Rush, which only uses 1, and Hardened Crusher, which is just powerful too, we don't have a lot of outlets for momentum. And even though our attacks are beefy, sometimes you're going to be doing half damage all the way through, or you'll get some attacks in the beginning, and we just want extra ways to use the momentum. And this gives us also some speed in addition to a boatload of damage, so I just thought it'd be a nice inclusion, and that's all why it's only a 2 of. It's not terribly crucial, but it's nice to have when you got the momentum. Next one, we got 4 copies of Encouragement. Flip after your unblocked attack resolves, discard it from the card pool. There's a lot of times, like I said, we don't have a huge need for momentum. Once you have the 1 momentum you need, chances are it's going to be more valuable to clear it from the card pool so you can keep playing more attacks and bumping that damage. And also sometimes blasting it to the discard pile, actually it meets the threshold for your next +1 damage for your Endeavor Enhance. Overall, great card. 2 or 4 copies of those. Next one, we got 4 copies of Let's Fight the Bad Guys. It's a great spam, and it allows you to flip for giving your Fury attack +2 speed. Like I said, we already have damage covered on the character side and most of the enhances on the attacks. So this one is just to purely make them fast, so our big damage can punch through. Next one, we only got 2 copies of it. Irrefutable Force of Nature. Just a little bit of defense here. We got Enhance, Commit, Seal 1 rival Earth, Fire, and Water Foundation or Asset. The main reason it's in here is just because there's some cards out there that might cancel our effects, such as Tayaki isn't Earth, just kidding. But there's things like Wall Cling underwater. There's a boatload of other things underwater that are really mean to you as defensively. And this will just turn off those defensive pieces. It also turns off some great offensive foundations as well. So it's just nice to have around. It also gives the option to just remove it and seal any asset or foundation, again, which is great. Sometimes, like Tayaki Fanatic that cancels random enhances, we want to make sure our crucial enhances go through, so you can just, seal it. They can't do anything. Or if they have any other pesky offense or defensive option that you just want to get rid of for the turn, just seal it. Next, we got 3 copies of Nervous Habit. Kind of just shoring out. You'll notice a lot of these ones don't have any discard effects, so we're just using them for the other effects. This will be some stun hate for you. After your opponent commits this due to an effect, they destroy 1 foundation, and that's playable while committed. And it's also lose 1 health. We have a ton of health as Endeavor, and you get +1 speed to your attack. Again, we already have damage covered, so it's nice to have different places to add speed to your attacks to make them that much more threatening and hard to stop. Next, we got 3 copies of Natural Leader. It's a great block, and your mid or kick attack gets +2 speed when you commit this on Enhance. Kick is irrelevant here, but almost all of these are going to be mids. I think there's 2 of them here. We got a low on Turbo Blast Ultra, or Turbo Rush, Blast Rush Turbo, and Signature Right Swing are the only non-mid attacks. So we got 3 copies of Natural Leader to make sure we can kick that speed up. It also has as an option First Enhance, commit, choose 1 rival foundation, and abilities on that chosen card cannot be played for the rest of the Enhance step. If you got an attack and they have, something like Wall Cling or something that's going to stop you from doing what you need to do, having the ability to turn it off for that attack is very nice. We also have Frozen, last card. 2 copies. The main reason it's in here is destroy 1 foundation. Your rival commits a foundation. Committing their foundations is nice. You have some stuff that gets benefit from hitting the discard pile during the enhanced step, and sometimes you'll need to play them because you need foundations. This gives you an outlet later on in the game to destroy them, get their bonus effect for hitting the discard pile, and then you also get to have them commit something on top of it. Again, it's mainly here because we wanted to shore up blocks and because we wanted an outlet during the match to destroy our own field to get those benefits. So when things like Aggressive Temper or Tutoring Kirashima are on the board, they don't do next to nothing other than pay for stuff, so you can commit them, and then later in the turn, blow them up, getting their benefit. I also forgot to mention it. Tutoring Kirashima does also have another effect that is kind of relevant, because we do run 1 card with Powerful. Flip, your Powerful attack gets +3 damage. That, of course, is only going to be useful on this. We have no other Powerful here. As you can see from the sideboard, there is a possibility of getting more Powerful if you use the Nitro Ignition. But that's stuff in the sideboard that we'll go over. Again, the sideboard cards, while I'm at it, are not actual sideboard. I don't recommend that this be the sideboard for the deck. It's just cards to consider that I was wrestling with maybe adding in the main list. It'll require more testing to see where they kind of land and if they're worth the spot. But as is, we'll cover that in the Patreon exclusive. It's here for you guys to look at, but if you want the detailed explanation of why they're there, you guys can go ahead and check out the Patreon. Also, segue to that, we have a Patreon, and we like to thank all our patrons for all the support that they have. And thank you guys for joining us for this deck list. That about wraps it up for this portion of the video. Thank you guys, and have a fantastic rest of your day. Go ahead and check out our Discord if you guys want to talk to me personally or just talk the game in general. The links for that will be in the description below. We also have some awesome My Hero Leagues that are going on the first 3 weeks, I believe it is, in this month, and in July we're starting another one. Prize support for that is great. You guys should go ahead and check it out, and see you guys next time. Have a great day.